Take two in terms of doing this week's News of the Week episode. So, for whatever reason, back in take number one, after I finished recording and uploading it onto my channel, it only showed an image of what looked like I was about to sit down on my chair to record this video, and that image basically played out throughout the entire 21-minute video. And if you were one of those 7 people that actually watched that video that I later deleted after about 8 minutes after the video was uploaded, yeah, that is pretty much the reason why it looks like that. And I wasn't actually just making a podcast, and that the podcast thumbnail is basically me look like I was about to sit down in my chair to record the video. And because of that, I'm gonna unfortunately have to redo the news of the week, which means that yes, I have to talk about all the stuff that I just mentioned 20 minutes ago in the first take of the News of the Week episode. And also, by the way, as you can see at the top of the board and behind this wall, I actually added a couple of new wall decoration on my wall right here, which I think I'm going to call it the MLS fan wall from now on. I basically have 2 new pennant, which is the Minnesota United pennant and the San Jose Earthquakes pennant here on the top left of the corner. And then on the top right is the Inter Miami FC Way sign, which, by the way, I actually bought that sign a couple of weeks ago, and literally a day after I bought that sign, it was no longer available on the MLS store. So if you like the sign right there, unfortunately, you cannot buy it anymore on the MLS store or even on the Fanatic store. You might be able to get it on the Inter Miami FC team store, or you can potentially get it from a third-party store, but other than that, they don't sell it anymore on the MLS store or on the Fanatic store. But that being said, let us actually get into the news of the week. And probably the biggest news from this week is that MLS decided to extend the length of the suspension of what the league is doing right now because of the coronavirus pandemic. And originally they said that they were going to suspend the league until May 13th. It's now going to be June 8th, or at least they're about to say that they are going to extend the suspension of the league until June 8th, as you know, it's not officially confirmed, and that I think this was just a report by ESPN and The Athletic saying that MLS is about to announce matches to be suspended at least till June 8th, which I'm pretty sure that shouldn't be a big surprise considering this pandemic that we are in right now doesn't seem like it's getting any better anytime soon. And I could even say that the June 8th date that they're setting might be a little bit optimistic in terms of when are they going to come back. I mean, as I said, since this pandemic is not getting any better, and if it doesn't get better as we head into May, you can guarantee the fact that they're not going to be coming back to June 8th. Unless if they think about coming back to June 8th and that they are going to just play a game behind closed doors, which kind of brings me to the next point where Don Garber actually suggested that when MLS does come back, he think that MLS could have a tournament format and neutral site when return. And that one thing he also mentioned that I didn't put on the board is that these games are going to be played behind closed doors. Now, originally, I didn't like games played behind closed door because I'm going to miss the opportunity to attend these games. But it's also due to the fact that, you know, if you are a fan of these games that's going to be played behind closed door and you bought tickets to go to these games, what are you going to do to get refund in terms of those tickets? Like, are you going to get refund out of those tickets? And even bigger problem in terms of this, besides fans, of course, might potentially not get a refund of the tickets or of the games that is going to be played behind closed door. Season ticket holder like me for the San Jose Earthquakes, all these games that's going to be played behind closed door, are these games going to be refunded into our season ticket package, or is it going to be rolling over into next season and that we get a little bit of a discount for our next season ticket if we're willing to buy the season ticket for next year's? I mean, that obviously is kind of a logistic nightmare, but at the same time, I think as this pandemic is kind of getting worse and just as we get to now over a month without any sporting events that is taking place, it is clear that I feel like if there is going to be anything to get the sporting world back together and get MLS game back together, might as well just accept the fact that, you know what, I'll take the sacrifice of potentially there is no fans attending a game, but there actually is going to be a match that is going to be taking place. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people kind of have that feeling where, yeah, you know, it sucks the fact that we can't attend the game, but would we rather have that kind of feeling of the fact that it sucks we can't attend the game, or to have the feeling that it sucks the fact that there's no sports on whatsoever? And I'm pretty sure about 90% of the people would pick the option of the fact that, well, you know, it sucks the fact that we can't attend the game, but at least there is going to be some sporting events that is taking place, and in this case, at least there's going to be some MLS game that is going to take place. Now, in terms of the tournament format and neutral site game, the tournament format, I don't know exactly how that's going to work. Don Garber did not mention how the tournament format is going to work, but I'm assuming most likely it could be something similar to what the Champions League is doing, where, you know, in the Champions League there is 32 teams and there is 8 groups of 4 teams that combine those 32 teams that is in the Champions League, and each of the group will be playing 6 match day, and the top 2 teams in each group will be moving on into the knockout stage. And I can see this happening to MLS, where, you know, there's going to be different teams that belong into each group, and I think to determine which team is going to be in the same group most likely will be depending on the region your team is going to be in, and after a couple of match day, it will decide who exactly is going to be moving on into the playoffs, and most likely it's going to be the top half of the table in each group that is moving on into the playoffs. Now, as much as that is a format that might be very decent, there are some advantage and disadvantage in terms of that. The advantage is obviously if you are a team that are kind of a basement dweller team, but you are paired up with other teams that is in your region that is kind of also a bottom feeder team, then you definitely have increased your chances of making the playoffs. Now, the big disadvantage is that if you are a team that is a basement dweller, and take my team, the San Jose Earthquakes, for example, of a team that usually are finding themselves near the bottom of the table, and now they're going to be grouped up with the likes of Seattle, Portland, LAFC, LA Galaxy, and Vancouver. That is a murderous group that the Quakes are going to have to be part of, and since only the top 3 team makes it out of the group, there is no way in the world the Quakes are able to make it out of the group. And you could even say that it might be even some disadvantage to some of the other big teams that is in the group, and that, you know, there are actually going to be some good teams that under the format that we usually use that are going to make the playoffs, but because of what this potential format is going to be, they might miss the playoffs, and that we might actually have teams, and actually have this phrase where we actually have teams that was too good to not make the playoffs, and that it's just a shame the fact that they had a great record where if they were in any other group they would have made the playoffs, but they weren't able to because they were in a strong group. So yeah, there are definitely some pros and cons in terms of this format, but I guess nowadays, in terms of whatever format that MLS or even any sports league is going to do when their league does come back after this pandemic, is going to be a little bit more stable, is going to have pros and cons in it. So we shall see what's going to happen, and whether or not if that is going to be the format that we're going to run once the league does come back. Now, CONCACAF president says that World Cup qualifier will most likely delay till 2021, and that the Hex would potentially delay until the beginning of 2021. Now, the good thing about this upcoming World Cup window is that you know how in 2022 when the World Cup is going to be in Qatar, is going to be playing in the winter, which I know there's a lot of people that is still very angry about that because of the fact that Qatar is clearly not fit to host a World Cup, and that it seemed like they basically bribed their way to host the World Cup. And since the World Cup is taking place in December, it completely messed up the European schedule. But to kind of put that to the side, it's kind of a little bit of a blessing in disguise, the fact that the next World Cup is going to be taking place in December. Because if you have World Cup qualifier that is like CONCACAF is going to be taking place now in January, and once it's going to finish probably around June, you're going to still have the same amount of time between the end of World Cup qualifier to the beginning of World Cup, and that these teams are going to get the same amount of preparation that they would do in previous World Cup windows. So yeah, I mean, in some way, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, the fact that the World Cup is moved to December. And I wonder if the World Cup in 2022, if it wasn't originally going to schedule into happening in July, was it actually, was there going to be a case where it's going to happen now, be moved in December? But that's another discussion we can have the other day. But it's just that it's, as I said, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, the fact that even if the World Cup qualifier for each region like CONCACAF is going to be delayed, each of these teams are still not going to lose any time of preparation between the end of the World Cup qualifier to the beginning of the World Cup. Now, moving on in terms of the news of the week, and this is kind of the part of the segment where I want to shed some light and shed some kind of just positive vibes in terms of what each teams have been doing to combat the coronavirus pandemic. SKC have distributed meal every weekday to those in need, while Atlanta United have started billboard campaign thanking the coronavirus frontline workers. And I also want to mention the fact that a lot of teams have light up their stadium in blue in recognition to all those coronavirus frontline workers, especially in the medical field that is dealing with that. And yeah, it's definitely great to see each team is doing that and bring some positive vibe in a time where it's kind of hard to have some positive vibe, and it's kind of hard to think about the positive. But yeah, that is kind of some of the things that some of these teams around MLS have done good deeds to kind of combat this coronavirus outbreak. And as I said many times in the previous News of the Week episode, let's see if next week we're going to have some more feel-good story like this. Now, moving away in this whole coronavirus epidemic kind of related to story, to actually talk about rumors and reports that happened this week. Yes, there was actually some rumors and reports of players and coaches potentially coming to MLS. And we begin with FC Cincinnati, rumored to have Jaap Stam, I think that's how you pronounce his name, or Dom Kintner as their head coach. Now, I don't know anything about Jaap Stam. The only thing I know about him is that he used to play for Manchester United. And obviously Dom Kintner, I know all about it because he was the former head coach of the San Jose Earthquakes, even played for the team a little bit. And yeah, let's just say that, FC Cincinnati, if you want a word of suggestion of whether or not if Dominic Kintner is the right hire, let's just say that no, it's not a great idea that Dominic Kintner should be your next head coach. I mean, I understand that Dominic Kintner, especially doing his last year with the Quakes, he was actually doing pretty well and actually got the team near the middle part of the table and above the red line before, unfortunately, getting fired. But during his time with the Quakes, a lot of people would always say that he plays this kind of negative style of soccer that is clearly completely outdated, and that a lot of Quakes fans was kind of sick of it. They want to see some exciting kind of soccer, not just kind of just bunker down every single game and hope you can score on the counterattack as he would usually do. And eventually he got ran out of town. And if Dom Kintner is going to bring that same style to FC Cincinnati, boy oh boy, FC Cincinnati is going to be in for a long year, because they literally tried to do that same thing in the first year and it failed miserably in terms of that. So yeah, words of suggestion, don't hire Dom Kintner as your manager, because you're going to have that same pain that you deal in the first season, if that is going to be the case. Now, do they think that they should potentially hire Yap Stun? I'm not quite so sure. Like, depending on if he does have some good managerial, position that he has done previously, or he can be a highly rated, talented head coach that could be a decent head coach upcoming. You might potentially give him a shot, but I think they could also think about maybe giving Johan David a couple of more months to see if he can improve the team. I mean, I know when he was in charge of the team as an interim head coach in the first spell after Alan Koch was fired from this team, he didn't do necessarily a better job than what Alan Koch has done, and the team was still kind of sinking, and a team that was still deep in the bottom of the Eastern Conference. But he's a very young head coach, and if you give him a second shot to kind of learn his mistake that he made from the first time, to not really taking that team to potentially rise up the table, maybe that would be a good thing. So yeah, we shall see whether or not if they're going to do that, or if they're actually looking to try to get a head coach. And I think with the way that they've been rumored with a couple of head coach, it looked like they're going to potentially get a new head coach. Lastly, Miguel Layun is rumored to reunite with his former head coach, which is Diego Alonso at Inter Miami. And I'll tell you what, this is not necessarily a bad signing if Inter Miami can get Miguel Layun. I mean, Layun has been saying that he really want to come to MLS and play for Inter Miami, and it's not really because that he's going to reunite with his former head coach Diego Alonso when he was at Rayados, but it's more to the fact that he want to play for David Beckham, and he want to play for his team. And going back to what I also said, that it's not necessarily a bad idea of him signing to Inter Miami. He at least give you some more option in terms of the midfield and in the defensive area, since he is a very versatile player. Although one thing that could be an issue for Inter Miami potentially signing Layun is that, is Rayados going to let him go to Inter Miami, and that if the price is going to be very high, Inter Miami potentially going to have to use a DP spot to try to get Miguel Layun. And knowing the fact that they only have one DP spot left, and that I really feel like that DP spot should clearly be used on a player that not only is a creative player, but also a proven goal scorer to that team, but it's clearly should be used for a player that is a well-known kind of European superstar player, like that they have kind of mentioned. Like, they've been keep mentioning that they're going to potentially get a big name player like Griezmann or Luis Suarez or even Neymar, for example. But if they think about getting Miguel Layun as their third DP, then that could be a huge disappointment, and that they just haven't really addressed the biggest needs that they need for this team, which is clearly goal scoring. Like, when you look at this team, they only have like one true number 9 in this team in Julian Carranza. Well, they actually have 2 true number 9, although one of them, Robbie Robinson, I haven't heard a lot of news of the fact that he is going to be coming back to this team. And Julian Carranza, you don't know how he's going to look after he suffered that injury in the beginning of the season. So yeah, strikers are definitely a big position that they need to fulfill. And knowing the fact that in the first 2 games they struggled to put away chances, they need to have that clinical goal scorer on the team. And what a better way to get a clinical goal scorer in MLS by spending big and getting that DP name, rather than getting Miguel Layun, who again, he's a very versatile player, but I don't know if he is going to be a guy that's going to bang in like a ton of goals for you. And not to mention the fact that he's already in his 30s. He's definitely going to start decline if he wants to stay with Inter Miami for a couple of years. But that being said, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the news of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the news from this week or from last week? And let me know in the comments below if there's any news that I didn't put here on the board that you want me to talk about. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.